So as any of you who have looked through this channel will know, I really enjoy the Dark Souls games, mostly Dark Souls 3, but I definitely love all the games in the franchise. It's such a good franchise. The punishing difficulty, the deep and well-crafted narrative, the grandiose environments that are just dripping with atmosphere and secrets. So many reasons to love this game series, and naturally I quite like games that try to ape it, because, you know, I'm addicted to Dark Souls, I'll take what I can get. Hellpoint is one of those games that tries to ape Dark Souls, it tries to coast on the fame of this style of game, only of all the Souls-likes I've played, it's the worst. It's easily the worst one I have played. Hellpoint is set on a space station called Idriv Narrow. It's a very awkward thing to say for me for some reason. I just can't wrap my brain around a lot of this game, but the station's got an awkward name. It's run by this guy called the Author, and he built you, your character, the Spawn, to complete tasks for him to restore the space station to its former glory. You see, it was a combined effort of all the races of the Milky Way for some no doubt incredibly important and obvious reason that presently escapes me. I'm not sure what they were doing out here. I'm not sure why this space station seems to orbit a black hole, which could or could not be a gateway to hell. And since Doom Guy is obviously not a part of this equation, it's down to our little Spawn to get the demons off the space station and sort shit out. I don't mind telling you this early that I really don't like this game. It's not a good game. It's as I said, it was one of the worst Souls-likes I have ever played. It's so completely lacking in any positive features, aside from, well, I say any positive features, it does have positive features. It does have some positive features, but those features, the positive in this game is how it tries to ape Dark Souls. The few bits of it successfully copies, those are its positive features. So it doesn't even have anything unique about it to praise. Or any of its unique characteristics, none of them are worth praising, because this game is a mess. Firstly, the story. There's no voice acting, no proper narration, which kind of threw me when I first started playing it. There's just these subtitles underneath a vaguely alienish sounding voice, which doesn't seem to be speaking any real language. It might be speaking a real language, I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. Without the narration, without this setting of the scene, so to speak, we don't really get a good idea of what's going on here. Now, obviously, it looked at Dark Souls and said, players don't always understand immediately what's going on in this game. Is there any way we can do the same thing? And yes, you can do the same thing, but it's important to give us some context. Some context. You don't have to give us a lot. You could let us figure stuff out on our own. That's absolutely fine. Matter of fact, that's better. But you need to do more than to just show us impersonal paragraphs on screens. Just subtitles are really easy to miss. You need to just do some work, believe it or not. You can't make a game without doing some work. So the narrative of this game is one of the first ways it lets itself down. It's just not as interesting. It's not as... It's I don't want to say it's not as subtle, because it's not in your face, but only because I feel like they just didn't know what they were doing with it. The writing isn't very good. Like, the bits of text I actually managed to convince myself to read were not very good. They were really uninteresting, poorly written, generic almost. And generic doesn't belong anywhere in a Souls-like. Okay? It does not belong in Souls-like. Generic and Souls-like do not go together at all. If you're making a Souls-like and you think, let's just put a little bit of generic dialogue in here, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I think Dark Souls 3 was probably its biggest influence, because it tries to ape the faster combat style of that game. And it doesn't really succeed, because Dark Souls 3 lets you take a variety of approaches, and don't get me wrong, Hellpoint, I got it right there, didn't I? Hellpoint, it's called Hellpoint. Anyway, Hellpoint does have variety in it. Technically speaking, it does have variety, like in the same way an RPG should have, an action RPG should have. But it all feels so shallow, so lacking in depth and interest that it's really, honestly, you may have picked up that I'm actually struggling to stay focused on what I'm saying. Because Hellpoint just isn't interesting to think about. It's not interesting to be in the same room as. Now, once I finally record this and post this, I'm gonna happily delete that from my console again and move the fuck on with my life. The main issue for me in Hellpoint is that it basically takes all the things that are bad about a Souls game and just runs with them. Because despite the fact I love the Souls franchise, I am happy to admit that there are problems with the franchise. For example, sometimes the collision detection can be a bit shit. Okay, so sometimes the collision detection can be a bit shit. The third-person aiming for when you're trying to use ranged weapons is not exactly it's no small task. Let's say that it's no small task to get that right. If your enemy is standing still, you're usually fine, but a lot of them aren't standing still. A lot of them are wandering around quite aimlessly. You can, if you equip too much stuff in one go, you will be slowed down. You won't be as nimble, but even that barely affects it, because I'll be walking really slowly with my great big shield and giant suit of armor, but the second I lock onto an enemy, the second I move around him in combat, I'm still dodging perfectly fine, I'm still blocking his attacks. Nothing seems to be lost by wearing the suit of armor, except the time it takes to walk through a level. The levels themselves are really, really uninspired. They all look so samey, so bland and samey. It's really just not fun to explore any of them. I spent hours today, literal hours, wandering in circles trying to figure out where the hell I was supposed to be going. The last time I played this game before I distanced myself from that mess for a while, thinking maybe they'll patch it, maybe it'll get better. The last thing I did there was fight this giant Satan-looking creature. For a minute there I thought maybe it was a short game and I just hit the final boss, and was almost hoping that, so that I could at least, write something up about it. Write a full review on it then, and be done with it, but that wasn't it. The game just bumbles on for ages after that. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be going. I'm not sure what the overall goal I'm supposed to be achieving is. Getting the space station back online, I suppose, but even then, I just can't keep myself focused on a narrative that doesn't seem to have showed up for work. It's so easy to forget where I've been, what I'm doing, who am I. It's not a fun game to play, moment to moment. I don't know what it is. The characters' animations look really stilted. Like, look at this here. Look at that shield movement. Look at that moving into block. Let's compare that to some Dark Souls footage quickly. Let's quickly compare that to some Dark Souls shield blocking. Look at that. That looks better. That looks like a character is actually moving to block something. The feedback is also a lot better. Your character responds more in Dark Souls to getting hit, to hitting something. Weapons seem to have actual weight in the game. But then if we compare them to Hellpoint, you're just sort of gliding through stuff and not really doing anything. Half the time my weapons seem to glide through an enemy and not damage it. That's obviously a bug, because no one would willingly create that. The hitboxes aren't as fucked. That's nice. The hitboxes aren't as fucked in this game, so that's a positive. But you don't score points for that if sometimes my weapons can just glide through an enemy and not do any damage. I so far haven't been able to find a shield that blocks 100% of incoming physical damage, which is really annoying because blocking is my usual go-to in these sort of games. You can't parry, so it's not, your game isn't even saying, oh, I'm focused on parrying, don't try and block everything, and that's annoying. Because I recently got decent at parrying in the Souls franchise after, some months with a physical trainer. But you can't. There's no way to get a critical attack on an enemy. There's no satisfying feel to any of this game. I don't know what else to say about it really. It's so unrewarding to play, so unrewarding to think about, that I feel like my brain is trying to rip itself free from my skull and find a big skillet and just fry itself. Because that process seems less painful than thinking about this video game, about this shit game. So Hellpoint, to summarise, is a Souls-like game which doesn't do enough to establish its own identity. Its creatures don't seem to exist in any sort of coherent universe. There's these demons running around, there's these Cenobite-looking creatures moving around, and that's fine. But they don't marry into the environments well at all. They don't. They just don't look like they belong here, and maybe that's intentional. But I feel like it's not as intentional as the plot would have you believe. I feel like someone was just making this, throwing demons and stuff into a map that they had no business being in, and then had to half-assedly contrive a reason for them to be there. And like I say, I'm not even sure why they're there. Maybe that black hole thing is actually a portal to hell that our station seems to be orbiting. I don't know. There's all sorts of other little things about this game, but the overall summarising point is it's just not very good. If you like Souls-likes, don't touch it, because it has nothing for you. The only positive side of it right now is that the multiplayer seems to be stronger, and I can actually get some people to help me beat a duo boss that had been kicking my ass the last time I stopped playing this. I think I might have even rage quit at that bit, actually, before, because it was just getting on my nerves. I hate those duo boss fights, and I give Dark Souls a pass with Ornstein and Smoke, because, I guess just because they're iconic at this stage, arguing it now seems completely pointless, But yeah, so that's Hellpoint. That's Hellpoint. It's a shit Souls-like that has not done enough to establish its own unique identity, to have a reason to exist. I can forgive a lot of things about a game, but its frame rate is terrible, its sound design is generic, there's no voice acting, there's no real narrative, there's nothing. This game has nothing. This is the Dark Souls you'd play if you were in hell. Oh my god, I just figured it out. It's preparing us for when we go to hell and have to play shit video games for the rest of eternity. Well, I thank you there, Hellpoint. I thank you for being my guide into what to expect when I finally die. Because, heaven is where there's a perfect Dark Souls 4 sequel, all the best parts of the Souls series, and some awesome new stuff like, I don't know, all the enemies have tits or something, but when we go to hell instead, we get to play Hellpoint, which is a dull, boring, almost aggravatingly so. I don't even know how to... I hate this game so much. I don't even know how to articulate my thoughts properly. I'm not even mad. I'm just tired, exasperated. I don't want to think about it anymore. So I'm not gonna. I'm gonna delete the game and I'm gonna go and play Dark Souls instead. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching this week's video. If you like what you heard and saw, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Next week, I don't know what I'm gonna do next week. Actually, I don't tend to plan these in advance. I tend to just let them, just do them as I feel like it. And yeah. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. That's Board Gamer signing off.